Come on, sit down. We're ready to begin. Thank you for coming out tonight. We've had a very exciting year, and I'm pleased to be here to tell you all of the things that have happened. So in Southfield this year, we've had substantial growth. I can't tell you about every renovation or every dollar that was spent, but by a very rough count, we have had over $200 million in new construction and renovation. And what this tells me is that people believe in us and are willing to invest in Southfield. This is I call it a vote of confidence. And obviously, as a fully developed city, our future is tied to growth and renewal. So the theme tonight of our State of the City is exactly that: reinvest and renew. And while we've seen a good deal of growth this past year, and there's many more projects on the coming before the Planning Commission and the City Council, I would caution that Michigan tax laws, the Headley Amendment and Proposal A, hold down our tax revenues. As property values increase, there's a cap, and it will take really a couple of decades before we have the kind of revenues that we had prior to both of these pieces of legislation being enacted. So consequently, this limits our ability to accomplish everything that we want, and it leaves us with some financial challenges. So on that note, we're in pothole season, so I'm going to lead right off with infrastructure and roads. We take our roads as roads and infrastructure. This is a top priority of ours, and we have spent, in the last 3 years, we've spent $97 million on roads. That's main roads that are ours and local streets. And yet $97 million, and we still have lots of potholes. This year, we're going to be spending $30.3 million. The good thing that, things that I want you to know as homeowners and investors in Southfield is that we are appreciative of the 2014 $100 million road bond. And what that's allowed us to do is leverage grant money. There are a number of state and federal grants for roads, but you have to have matching money. And because the voters approved the $100 million road bond 4 years ago now, we have money that we can match. So for instance, last year we matched, the money that we spent last year was matched with about $9 million in outside funds. This year it's over $8 million that we are matching because we have shovel-ready projects and because we have money that we can match. Not every community has that. The other thing I want you to know is, or two other things I want you to know is that one, we're doing a holistic approach to roads. So if your neighborhood has been done, you know that we're doing water mains, we're doing sewers, sanitary and storm, and we're working with Consumers Energy to replace the gas lines, and in places we're doing sidewalks as well. So in other words, we don't want to invest money in a road and then 2 years later somebody comes along with a jackhammer and has to break up the road. So we're, not to say that that can't happen, we're trying to avoid that. And the other thing that's very good news here is that we have been able to not only do the roads, but we've added quite a bit of sidewalk and sidewalk replacement in the city. We're trying to be a more walkable city. We're encouraging non-motorized pathways and modes of transportation. So last year we were able to do quite a bit of work. We did the Northwestern Service Drive from Telegraph to the end. It was very bad shape. We did Evergreen between 9 and 10 and 11 and 13. And that terrible stretch of Lodger between Civic Center Drive and Northwestern Highway. And then Franklin Road, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, and then a number of neighborhood streets. And again, we are on a mission, but please note that we have 246 miles of local roads, and that if we're replacing it with concrete, it's 1 lane mile per $1 million. Also know that 8 Mile, 10 Mile, 12 Mile, Losher, Greenfield, Southfield Road, and Telegraph are not our roads. These are state and county roads. And while the county, for instance, has worked on several of these roads, including repairing last summer Southfield Road, doing patching. Every time the county comes or the state, there's a handout that you have to have the local match. So for a couple of years ago, when the Greenfield failed between 8 and 9 Mile, we had to pay, and it wasn't our job. It wasn't our cement. It was a county job. We still had to contribute $600,000 to that. So it's it really is a challenge for us. I appreciate your patience and understanding. And when we're in pothole season, I always tell people, drive a little slower, especially if you know there's a pothole ahead. The other thing I want to tell you is that we've had 3 crews out every day and on weekends. We're kind of caught up with it now, the potholes. They've been filled, but we're still in frost and freezing cycle, so things yet could happen. But anyhow, moving along. We have our 4th roundabout at Franklin and 11 Mile. If you know that intersection, a lot, especially drivers that weren't familiar with 11 Mile and Franklin bends. The road was in terrible shape. People got confused. They were going the wrong way. So we now have a roundabout there, and Franklin Road has been totally redone. Another thing that we are doing is storm and separation of storm and sanitary sewers where they are combined. Everybody can remember the big rain of August 2014. We had 9, and we didn't have the worst of it across Metro Detroit, but we had 900 homes with flooded basements, flooded with sewage, which is if you've ever had that, it's a terrible thing to deal with. So we are in a process of replacing, or actually separating and replacing sanitary and septic, or rather storm sewers in the 10 Mile Greenfield area. This is a $48 million project. So it's going to take us a while to get this done, but eventually we will have new storm and sanitary sewers, and hopefully lessen the likelihood of basement flooding in a major rain. And whether you believe in climate change or not, we are having some very severe weather events, and that's one of the reasons why we want to do this. So a lot of attention was given to the sewer collapse and the big hole over in Fraser, where and one of the reasons it made so much news is because some houses were going to fall into it. Well, Southfield had its own sewer collapse, and again, It took a year to repair. It took $6 million, and it wasn't our sewer. It was a county sewer interceptor. However, the way the county works on these things, well, it's in your town. So although the county put up some money for this, we are responsible, although they did not inspect their sewer interceptor, and consequently it failed and took out a major water main that ran along Telegraph. So it took a year to repair this, and our share of this is part of the $6 million, a good part of the $6 million. So what are we doing this year? Well, $30.3 million. We're doing 11-mile road from Bell to Arlington. We're doing the northbound Southfield or Northwestern Service Drive from Southfield Road to Lasher, which is in rough shape. And anybody that drives 9 Mile and Telegraph, I hear about it all the time. 9 Mile and Telegraph will be done, but actually we telegraph all the way to Lasher Road. And we're going to be inconvenienced by this because the bridge has to be replaced. So we'll be replacing the bridge over the Tamarack drain, the tributary to the Rouge. So expect some rerouting of traffic. And then we're doing more neighborhoods, including Winchester. Anybody in the Winchester, Beacon Square area, you know how bad that road is. And we're going to be doing something else there. We're going to do traffic calming on Winchester so that a lot of the residents that live on Winchester talk about how people go too fast. And we did a speed study. Neighborhood streets are supposed to go 25. The average speed on Winchester was 43. That's pretty fast to go through a residential neighborhood. So moving on to housing and neighborhoods. The city council and we do have two city council members here. Dan Brightwell, our council president, and I saw Ari Mandelbaum, councilman, council president pro tem, are both here. The city council, the mayor, and the administration are working on goals for neighborhoods. We're an aging community. Our housing stock, much of it dates back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, and of course, we need to maintain our neighborhoods. So we are working, these are our goals, and I'm pleased to tell you all of the things that we're doing in support of these. But we're improving public infrastructure, we're raising property values, and I want to tell you that home values are going up in Southfield. We're seeing some really significant increases in property value. We want to assist our older residents. We believe in aging in place. That's certainly what I plan to do. I love my home. I got good neighbors. I don't want to go anywhere. We're bringing resources to help our older residents maintain their homes and their yards. And finally, following the mortgage crisis and the recession, the number of rental homes and group homes in the city skyrocketed. We now have 60 group homes. I think it's enough. However, the city cannot control group homes. It's called community mental health, something Governor Engler brought us when he was in office, and it's decentralizing mental health care. So we usually find out about group homes after they open, or unless they're renovating, for instance, turning a garage into a bedroom, and they have to go to the building department. But a lot of times, they just show up, and we find out about it later. So we have a number of home repair programs that we've had for years. We continue to put a lot of money into these programs, SHIP, CHORE, Oakland County Home Program, and then we've expanded our sewer and septic program. We're encouraging people to hook up to city sewer if it's feasible. And we have a low-interest loan program, and we have a no-interest loan program. The no-interest loan programs puts a lien on the house. So when the house sells, then the city gets its money back. But think about the money the city is tying up. But this is something that's important to us, so we are doing it. But most significant here is that we have spent $1.5 million in just these programs. There's more to come. I am always willing to partner with anybody, and we always look around for people that want to help in Southfield. So there's a program called Oakland Rebuilding Together, and what Oakland Rebuilding Together does is they go to corporations. In this case, it's Federal Mogul. They've done Eaton, a number of other major businesses in Southfield, and the employer gives their staff a day off or two to work, and they also bring money in to buy tools and resources. So Oakland Rebuilding Together has been doing work in Southfield for a whole number of years. They did 12 homes last year and 2 parks. Very similar to that is Habitat for Humanity's Rock the Block program. Habitat, again, connects volunteers and businesses, and even they tied up with the Electrical Brothers Union last year, and Channel 7 was another partner in this. They did 14 home makeovers, and they're doing 2 more neighborhoods. This is a voluntary program. We solicit the neighborhood, and would you like to be part of the Rock the Block program? The catch is the homeowner has to put in some sweat equity. They have to do whatever they can do physically, because the Habitat for Humanity program is always, their thing is, it's a hand up, not a handout. One of the things that we were spending quite a bit of money on was raking leaves and yard cleanup in the fall, and it was coming out of the CHORE program, which gives a $500 grant to people who are handicapped or elderly to do yard maintenance or minor repairs, like having a plumber out or something. And so 2 years ago, I thought, couldn't we get some people to do the raking of leaves instead of paying somebody to come and do it? And so last year we had 270 volunteers. This year we had 350, 6 days of leaf raking, 120 yards were completed. And I'm very grateful to Lowe's and Home Depot, who donated the bags, and also to Lawrence Tech. Many of the volunteers came from there, as well as from Southfield Public Schools, kids and their parents, and some of the staff. The next couple of slides deal with our neighborhood revitalization initiative. What was happening here after the mortgage crisis, and a number of, I don't know if you know this, it's a sad statistic, but Southfield was the #1 community to be hit with the mortgage fraud, or the empty promise mortgages, if whatever you want to call them, where you can get in a house and you can own a home, but all of a sudden the balloon payment comes, and a lot of people were misled. When I was campaigning for re-election to City Council in 2005, I remember walking through Beacon Square. These are 4- and 5-bedroom homes, and any number that were for sale was 0 down. And I said to myself, this isn't good. If you can't put a down payment on a house this large, you probably shouldn't be in it. And sure enough, I don't think any of those people kept their homes. They were fooled. Anyhow, these properties, then we had a whole rash of people who couldn't pay their taxes. And some of them were in these homes, they were underwater in their homes and so on with their mortgages. And so the number of Oakland County tax foreclosures spiked. And a lot of these properties were being bought up by flippers. They were being bought up by home rental companies, speculators, real estate interests. And what was happening is that we had this huge spike in rental homes. And I always make this qualification, I'm not against rental homes, but too many in a neighborhood change the neighborhood. So for instance, if you look at from 12 to 13 Mile Road, Greenfield to Everett, that's 4 blocks, 1 mile, 407 homes. Only 50 some are owner occupied. And the people that live there tell me, Ken, this isn't a neighborhood anymore. We don't know who these people are. They come and go. Maybe the landlord mows the lawn 3 times a year. They don't take the garbage cans in. They park on the lawn. Any number of issues. And again, we want people to invest in the neighborhood. We want people to own their home. We promote home ownership. But it has to be home, obviously, that you can afford on your own, with your own budget. So we stopped this. We put a stop to, I went to one of the auctions and I watched a woman buy up 15 Southfield condos. I watched a young couple was sitting next to me and they had their heart set on a house that they could afford and they hoped to get it at the auction. And one of these flippers and investors came in and outbid them. And then they're turning again into rental homes. And one of the homes that I watched be purchased at the county auction was a couple of blocks from me. The house was a wreck. In a week later, unregistered, it was rented, and people were living in it. We don't want this. So we created something called the Southfield Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative, or SNRI as we call it. So far, it has purchased 90 homes and 6 vacant lots in Southfield. We are in the process with Habitat for Humanity of rehabbing these homes. No tax money is being spent on this. How this works is the city has first right of refusal by state law. When the county treasurer says you cannot, you've not paid your taxes, or you're on a payment plan and you haven't met your payments, the county treasurer decides, I'm going to foreclose. And when the county treasurer forecloses, then the way the law works, the state government has first right of refusal. Very rarely does the state ever take anything. And second right of refusal goes to local governments. So the city council has stepped in and taken these homes and then turns them over to this entity called SNRI, and SNRI then reimburses the city. Now, the SNRI has no money. Where does the money come? The money comes from the Southfield Neighborhood, the Southfield Housing Board. It's a nonprofit. It's well-funded, and its mission is housing. And so the Nonprofit Housing Board is the fiduciary source for this program. Again, these properties would have gone to county auction if the SNRI didn't step in. This is one of the typical, some are in very good shape, many of them are in poor shape, and a number of them are from landlords who collected rent for years and didn't pay their taxes. And all of you are, I assume, or almost all of you are, you pay property tax, you pay your water bill. And when people don't pay their taxes and don't pay their water bill, who pays for it? We all do. We have to make up the difference. So this particular house was bought at the Oakland County land auction. The guy never lived in the house. He sheared all the trees in the backyard, started an illegal marijuana grow operation, which was caught. This is in the middle of a neighborhood. And of course, no work was done on the home. It's a wreck now. It's a total loss. It will be torn down by the SNRI. And so we have 13 homes like this. They're a blight on the neighborhood. You don't want to live next door to them, either do I. And so we paid the back taxes, the water bills, the fees, and the demolition costs. This is a loss to the SNRI of somewhere between $325,000 and $350,000 for these 13 homes. So, what do they look like? Well, here's a home that about $85,000 back taxes. Water bill, $2,700. House sat vacant after they finally moved out. The SNRI put in $21,000 in rehab, and becomes turnkey. It's all up to code. If it needs a new roof, it gets a new roof. Landscaping, new driveway, painting, windows, heating and cooling. Whatever the house needs, it gets it. What we're doing here is we're reinvesting in the neighborhood. And so a number of these, again, in this house, when it sold, it made a slight profit. And that's great because a number of the houses that the SNRI has repaired have more money's been put into it than they can recoup in market value. The good thing is that we have sold a number of these homes now, and people are bidding on them. Multiple people are interested in buying them, again, because you can just walk in, and maybe the SNRI only paints white. So if you want some other color or wallpaper, that's on you. But basically, they're turnkey. And so we have nothing to do with who buys the home. They go on the real estate multi-list. You get a realtor, and you can put a bid on the house, but you have to obviously be qualified for a mortgage. And the caveat is there's a deed restriction. You cannot rent the home. You must live in the home. Again, we're promoting home ownership. So we have sold 22 houses to date, and more are currently on the market, and a number are under restoration. And then we have 25 homes that we're doing nothing with at the moment because we're being sued. We're being sued because these individuals believe that we've stolen their home. They did not pay their taxes. The Oakland County Treasurer foreclosed on them after offering them Step Forward Michigan, which is a grant program, payment plans, whatever. We have nothing to do with the decision to foreclose. That is a county function, and it's not unique to Southfield. Last year, there were 40,000 tax foreclosures in Oakland County, residential and commercial properties. It's a big problem. And you have a number, like in Wayne County, you have a number of unscrupulous people who are taking these homes at auction, renting them, collecting the rent, and never paying taxes, and then after 3 years, walking away from the home. So the taxpayers, county and city taxpayers, are subsidizing these landlords. It's happened here. It's pretty rampant in Wayne County and Detroit. So we're trying to put a stop to that. Overall, the SNRI has spent, in the last 2 years, has spent $4 million, coupled with a $1.5 million. That's $5.5 million in neighborhood restoration. We're trying to improve property values. We're trying to restore and maintain good neighborhoods, and that's what this program is all about. We have another tool that we're going to start probably in June. We have a public hearing in May. And these are called Neighborhood Enterprise Zone. This is a state program, a state incentive program for neighborhood restoration. And we have 2 areas of the city that we've picked. The northeastern corner from Catalpa to 13 Mile Road, Greenfield, over to Everett, and then the south central, sections 34 and 35. And the reason that these 2 areas were picked is because these 2 areas in Southfield have the largest concentrations of pre-1960s homes with modest assessed values. So it's a tool for, and it's a state law, and the state law only allows you to do a percentage. You can't do the whole city at once. They only allow a percentage. So, and how does this work? Well, it's a voluntary program. Your taxes, your city and county taxes will be reduced by 17.2 mils for up to 12 years. And you have to take, if you're interested in the program and you live in one of these areas, you take some of your money, your capital, with your tax savings, you put them together, and you have to make, and you have to document obviously all of this, you have to make major home repairs. And some of the things are listed there: roofs, wiring, plumbing, windows, foundation, so on. Or in addition to the house, it also is possible. However, there's another caveat according to state law, and that is that it cannot pay for labor. It only pays for materials. And that's because people can cheat on labor. So moving on to commercial renewal and reinvestment. Our premier office complex, the town center, I don't know if you've been over there or not, but it's undergoing a major renovation. They're spending $56 million in upgrading the town center. They've repaired the parking deck. They've fixed the parking lots. They're redoing all the public spaces, made a conference center, the lobbies, and one thing I was very glad to see is that dark brick flooring, if you remember that, is gone now. The last part to be done on this $56 million project is the central atrium. They're going to make it more usable and more event space, because right now it's got a lot of plants. There'll still be plants, but they want to have it more for functions, so they're going to clear out some of that. But this is a rendering of what it's going to look like. This is what the 3000 Town Center looks like. It's very stylish. The Westin Hotel is in the middle of this complex. They have joined the effort, and they have a $14 million renovation that they've just completed, all their guest rooms, public spaces, and meeting rooms. We thought the old Holiday Inn on Telegraph Road was going to meet the wrecking ball, and we are extremely pleased that there is a company out of New Zealand called Kiwi Development, came forward 2 years ago and said there's no reason why this hotel shouldn't be successful with all the auto-related, with BASF next door and Denso down the street and Kamau and Lear. Why isn't this hotel? Well, it was mismanaged. They were having teenage parties there, and people renting by the week, and all kinds of things. And so they've drove out really their good clientele. So Kiwi has put in $3.6 million in the hotel and the restaurant. They both opened last May. The Nomad Grill is with the Epicurean Group. I recommend you go there. They do a happy hour. They do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It seems to be more popular at lunch hour. The rooms in the hotel are beautiful. They're very, very tasteful. And the manager the other day told me that they are not, they're keeping their rates at about 140, 150, 160 because they want business travelers, they want people who will respect their property. And I congratulate them for that. The Advance Building at 9 Mile and Greenfield has had a lot of money spent on the interior of the building, and now they're doing exterior renovation, over $1 million plus. They're doing facade changes, landscaping, and they're going to be building a freestanding strip center on Greenfield as an outlot. Vibe Credit Union was at Northland, closed their location there, took down the old Mason's Lodge that had mold and water issues in the lower level, and we have a new Vibe Credit Union in the city center. Evergreen Plaza got a makeover last summer with new landscaping, signage, and some parking lot work. And then Kroger has just finished a $1.6 million renovation of the store. This was a couple of weeks ago that they had the ribbon cutting. These 1970 office buildings on Greenfield were, really tired and run down. So Providence Hospital took them over, and they are now a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center with over a $1 million in improvements. The former world headquarters of Federal Mogul Corporation at Northwestern Highway in Lasher has new owners. They put money into cleaning up the site and cleaning up the building, and they are now marketing it as the Metro Area Commerce Center. We've had a number of smaller renovations, but they all add up. This office building at 12 Mile and Northwestern, very, very dated inside. I knew one of the tenants who moved because it was so dated, and they have totally renovated the building, sliced off the front, and created this Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins. Many of you remember New Soul Garden. New Soul Garden closed, is undergoing a major renovation, and they're building an outlot grocery store. The restaurant itself inside will have a fast, easy, or fast casual, and we'll have a bakery. Again, a smaller project, but next to, sometimes if somebody puts their foot in the water, then somebody else. So where the hotel is, south on Telegraph, south of 696, the hotel put money in. The Sunoco station is now redoing, and across the street, we're getting a new Starbucks. This may not seem like a big deal to you, but even the car wash at 10 Mile and Evergreen, we've been after the Northwest Boat Company for years to do something about how it just didn't look very good. I'll leave it at that. So the car wash is expanding. They're putting in back stations, and they bought the boat business, and they demolished it. They'll complete this project in the spring. 123Net is a company that's now in 3 Southfield buildings. They're growing by about 20% annually. They continue to hire, if you know anybody that's looking for work, and they're providing, they've become a center of connectivity. They provide data, network, and voice technology to a number of Fortune 500 companies. And also, very interesting, I learned this recently, they've become the largest data center in Metro Detroit, and it's home to the Detroit Internet Exchange, 40th largest, what did I do? Uh-oh. The projector shuts itself off. So anyhow, and I'm not sure, I need to go back a second, sorry about that. Yeah, here we go. Anyhow, they're the 40th largest internet exchange point in the world, right here in Southfield. Okay, moving on to business retention and attraction. This is something that we work on every day here. We have almost 29 million square feet of office space. We've got to keep our buildings filled. And so we work at attraction. Obviously, the big story of the year is Beaumont buying the former First Center office building on Northwestern Highway. This is a big deal because they're bringing 3,000 people here. They're going to build a parking deck. And why Beaumont decided to do this was because they have 16 campuses. They have HR on this campus, this campus, this campus. They have finance people all over the place. It wasn't efficient. And they needed the space on the campuses, on their campuses for other functions. So they've decided that, and because we're the center of it all, they decided to come to Southfield. And we're really pleased to have them. They're gradually moving people into the building, so they have about 500 or 600 so far. It'll grow up to by the year's end. And the tenants that are in the building, we are relocating. We want to keep those companies in Southfield. So here's another one of our high-tech companies called Stefanini. It's a Brazilian company with offices in Southfield, and it provides digital services and transformations, cybersecurity, and augmented reality. And they have consolidated, they're hiring, and they have moved into 2 floors on the Blue Cross Blue Shield complex, which had been empty for a number of years at 11 and Inkster. They do some, the stuff that's happening in technology is way beyond me, but I went over to see their offices, and they said, well, just stand in front of this camera. And the camera all of a sudden comes on the screen, my name and my age. And the camera has recognized me. It's a little unsettling at times. Huntington Bank bought First Merit, and they said goodbye to Troy, and they brought everybody over to the Oakland Town Square, 200 people. We don't have Ford, GM, and Chrysler, but we have virtually everybody else. We have all the people that back up the big 3. And so in our portfolio now, we have Oria, which has moved into Central Park Boulevard, brought 120 people here. Village Green Holdings has moved in. You may know Village Green, or maybe lived in one of their properties once. They manage 40,000 units in 90 cities across the U.S. They brought 120 people with them on 2 floors in the building, and they've since hired 30 more people. Autoliv, which is a company that's in Southfield and in Farmington, is growing. They're also hiring high-tech. They do passive safety, but they're also now doing autonomous vehicle testing and development of autonomous vehicles. They now have announced, and we broke ground on this, I think November, late October. I know it was a very cold day. They're building a 140,000 square foot building in the American Center Office Park, west of Franklin Road, and it's a $40 million facility. We're getting a new conference center on 12 Mile. They're calling it Southfield Conference Center, and it's redeveloping this property. Most of it was vacant. There was an old house on one of the parcels, and it's just east of Inkster Road, $6 million investment. Everybody, of course, wants to know what's going on with Northland. If you drive by, you may have noticed now that the Target store has been totally demolished. In this picture, it was still coming down. We would have had the Firestone store down, except that DTE has been very slow to come over and disconnect the electricity, but the contract has been let for that. The big thing that we've been doing that you can't see, over the years, the various owners of Northland, to attract business, and as they sold off pieces of the mall or the outskirts of the mall, they gave easements. So there were easements for sewers, there were easements for parking lots, there were easements for driveways, and various access easements. And what that means, if you're not familiar with easements, is you own it and I get to use it. And you have to maintain it. So for instance, there is the Montgomery Ward Auto Repair Service. Montgomery Ward is gone, long gone. You know that boarded up building on Greenfield? It was an auto repair. That little tiny building has 1,300 parking space easement on Northland. That's 10 acres on Greenfield. That we would maintain the parking for them. There's no way they need 1,300, even if the business were open, no way they need 1,300 parking spaces. So, but somebody made that deal, and when these deals were made, they just piled easement on top of easement on top of easement. Nobody undid anything. It amounted to 870 pages of documents. We are down to one easement now. This has taken months and months and close to $100,000 in legal fees. But if you're going to develop the property, you got to have clear title. So we are in a jam. But we have, the City Council approved design standards for anything that's built We've had the asbestos removal is near complete. Again, you have 1 million square feet of building there. It takes months and months to remove the asbestos. We've hired a master broker. The site is being marketed. And we have 2 companies that are in their due diligence phase for things that they're hoping to build. You may have heard this, but out of San Diego, Pacific Medical Building, they work with hospitals all across the country. They work a lot with Ascension Health, which is the parent company of St. John Providence Hospital. Ascension is out of St. Louis. So Pacific Medical Building is very interested in building at Northland. Providence Hospital does not want to build anything. They want someone else to partner and build it for them, and then they will lease it or they will help finance it. So they're looking at having an ambulatory care center, a center for well-being, which is like a fitness, a hotel, a small hotel, a food hall and event center, senior housing, and acute rehab center. The housing is important. Providence Hospital has 26 teaching programs. They're a teaching hospital. They need student housing and affordable housing near the hospital. So that's on their wish list. Plus they need parking. They're out of parking and they are out of medical office. So we're in the financing stage with this right now, so, but I hope, hopefully in the months ahead, this will begin. Providence Hospital, we've always envisioned as our anchor for Northland, and will spur other development there. The rendering looks like this. This would be the event center, an open courtyard for outdoor events. This is the existing power plant that's decommissioned. We see turning this into, and we've had some people in to look at it, into a brew pub, a restaurant and brew pub, leaving all the big pipes and everything, just making an interesting environment. And there are various centers with the housing in the back. Moving on. So one of the hot areas in Telegraph, or rather in Southville for development is North Telegraph. Opened already as a new Starbucks. This is the one that's being built between 696. Remember All-Star Desk? That building came down. This is the new strip center. And the Comerica Tower at 12 and Telegraph has had major work done on it, including parking lot. They had a lot of ADA non-compliance issues there. They had to go up steps to get in the office building. So they lifted the parking lot and put this canvas or canopy over the drop-off area. The building is, besides the bank, is primarily medical office. The other hospital that serves our area, Beaumont, has a huge project going on at 13 and Woodward. That hospital is expanding, but they are the auxiliary spaces for Beaumont, they've kind of run out of exhausted what's nearby at 13 and Woodward. And so they've begun to come across Greenfield, which is good for us. Last year they built a medical office building at 13 and Greenfield that is occupied. This will be the latest. This is the Al Wazir office building at 12 Mile and Marshall. It's just a few blocks down from Greenfield. 1.6 million. It took down a very dilapidated house. And then Beaumont took a vacant lot. I believe it was a burned out office building on 12 Mile. Yeah, it was the office building that burned and been vacant for years. At 12 Mile and Pierce, and they've constructed and are operating a sleep evaluation service for people who can't sleep at night. This is a $2.1 million facility. Back in the City Center, I'd never heard of this chain before, but I guess they're all over. I hear they're all over the United States. It's called Noah's Event Venue, and they like to situate themselves very close to major office centers, and they do business conferences and small weddings. About 250 people they can accommodate. So work will begin on this shortly. It's been approved. It's a $1.2 million project. You won't see it from the street. It's next to Oakland Town Square. It'll be set back, and that's just the way they like it. We've had a whole passel of small businesses open this year, and I single out Zoop because, in particular, because we had the first Zoop. There's now 100 of them nationally. They've franchised. So now we have the first and the 100th. They started on Northwestern Highway in Southfield. They're still headquartered here. And they had they opened last spring and had their ribbon cutting last August. Number of the other, I won't read the whole list, but we've had a number of other businesses. Across the street, Tropical Smoothie, Atletico, the Nomad Grill, the Starbucks, 2 Captain J's have opened, another AT&T store, MedPost, so on. Diamond City Jewelers, that used to be at Northland, is now at 9 Mile and Greenfield. And Sam's Shoe Service, that's not new, but if you use Sam's at Tel 12 Mall, he has now, he's not just fixing shoes anymore and selling shoelaces, he's selling shoes. So he doubled his store. Beautiful job of expansion. You know, again, as I said earlier, it always takes someone that believes in us and knows that, sees the value. So Ark and Jonah came along, AF Jonah Construction Company, and they took St. Bede's Church, that property. And people said, oh, we don't need more apartments. Oh, this whole thing is terrible. Why are you allowing this? Well, Ark and Jonah does top quality work. He rented out the whole strip center, and those 114 apartments with rents going up to $2,300 a month with garage. Rented out 114 units, rented out last year in 90 days. And I'm going to come back to that. Across the street then, Optimize came in last year. So then all of a sudden there's this whole wave, ripple, going up Southfield Road. And we have an office building next to Southfield Plaza, a tired 60s office building came down for Hamilton Square. Home Depot is building an outlot under construction now. The Easy Storage, a second location. You may wonder why is there this growth in storage? Because office buildings, a certain amount of documents have to be kept. And if you're renting office space over at Town Center at $22 a square foot, that's expensive just to store paper. So instead, they do off-site storage, and Easy Storage has 2 locations. This is a $10.1 million investment, and it took down the very tired Cranbrook Office Center, one of those buildings. And then down on the bottom, this is the Sam's mobile station at 13. It was always a very well-kept mobile station at 13. He won beautification awards. He always kept the place very clean. Anyhow, Sam is in the act. He's spending $2 million here for take care of drainage. You may have seen, if you've driven by, you've seen the big pipes that have been there. And he's putting in a new gas station, convenience store, plus a coffee shop. Also at Southfield Plaza, the Springhaven condos were stopped. That development was stopped when the recession hit, and now they're completing with 103 units. This is a $13.5 million investment in Southfield, and again, they're charging. These are very nice units. They are charging $2,300 a month, and as soon as they are finished, they rent out. They've got, and you get a 2-car garage, you get a fireplace, you get a loft, you get all the finishes that you'd want, granite countertops and steel appliances. We're very pleased to see this. I think eventually this will become condo like the rest of the development, but right now they're renting them. Lear has opened a product showroom in the old Sims store across the way from Lear. Sims went out of business, and Lear jumped across the street, has offices, they've expanded over there, and you know, the stuff they do create over there is incredible. But last spring I took our sister city delegation from Dunjachen, South Korea. They toured a number of businesses, Southfield Schools and LTU, and this just happens to be the day we were over there. Kamau, this is, if you're not familiar with this company, it's the robotics company that down on Anchor's Lower Telegraph at 8 Mile, above 8 Mile. Kamau designs, builds robotic assembly lines that are shipped all over the world. Very high tech. They've added a new center called LIFT, or Lightweight Innovations for Tomorrow. And they're partnering with anybody that wants to work with them, because they're doing this advanced metal. They can use the Advanced Metals Lab, Laser Lab, Machine Shop, as well as their staff. So again, the needle keeps getting pushed forward with innovation and some of our high-tech companies. Denso, I don't have it up on the screen, but is going through a $75 million expansion. It's about a 3-year project. It's not new this year. They're continuing it. They're adding 120 jobs. And their big project now is this connectivity core platform, they're calling it, to securely link services, new services with vehicles to bring new traveling experiences for the cars of the future. Eaton Corporation, I just happened to see this tweet, is proud to be named by Fortune magazine as one of the most admired companies. We certainly like Eaton. BASF, the major supplier of paint and plastics for the automobile industry on Telegraph. For the 14th year, it has been named a GM Supplier of the Year. And you'll notice up here it says 2016. That's because GM doesn't announce the supplier until the year after. So this, in 2017, they were named for the 14th time the Supplier of the Year. Tremendous company, and has a great social or civic conscience here. Another company that's doing extremely well, this is in the Mars Advertising Building at 10 and Telegraph. Prize Logic landed on the Inc. magazine's 5,000 list of distinction as one of the fastest growing companies, and it's for the 6th year. Then we have, you may not be familiar with this, but we have a business incubator, something we call the LTU Collaboratory. It's a partnership with the City of Southfield, the Smart Zone, and Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And it is growing business in Southfield. They've hired, they've created 18 new companies, 24 full-time employees, average starting salary $6,700. That's good money for new hires. $3.7 million in follow-on capital, 15 jobs, selling products, patents, all of this. And you may say, well, you know, why is the city involved in this? The major reason is that there is so much talent at LTU. We don't, and we've had a brain drain here for years of young people going to the West Coast, going to the East Coast, going to Chicago or Texas. We want to keep these people here and have them grow their businesses here. So that's why we're partnering. And this is in the Marx building on the campus of LTU. Moving on to Southfield livability and walkable urbanism. You know, we do a whole number of events here. I won't read them all, but you know, everything from our largest and first Martin Luther King Peace Walk in the state of Michigan, you know, Eat to the Beat, food truck rallies, all of the various things, jazz and blues at the library, and of course, the Taste of Southfield that the Chamber puts on every fall. So, you know, we had a lot of great events, and Mother Nature cooperated with us last year. Our Eat to the Beat concerts, and Food truck rallies were very well attended. The fire department returned with its open house, and here they're demonstrating how easily you can have a conflagration with regular household furniture because of the materials and the plastics and so on. 1,500 people showed up on a Sunday afternoon. It was a beautiful day in October. A lot of our outdoor events, of course, are always iffy, but we had good weather. This is a special year for us. This is our 60th anniversary. You are all invited to come to City Hall on the afternoon of April 29th from 2 to 6 p.m. We are having an open house in the pavilion, lots of entertainment for kids as well as adults. And of course, we're having birthday cake. The open house will have tables for every department and boards and commissions and so on that will explain what they do and the resources they offer. Our Mid-Century Modern Architecture Tour returns on May 6th, 2 p.m., starting at Shaare Zedek Synagogue, goes around and tours a number of our unique architecture from the mid-century period, and ends back at Shaare Zedek at 4:30. Our Flower Day on 9 Mile, we started that last year. Our flower stands, we are continuing to have Flower Day on 9 Mile, May 19th. Then we're adding a new walk, the Crohn's and Colitis Walk. There'll be more publicity about that. Summer Solstice Family Fun and Safety Night. Rhyme and Rhythms. Oh, wait a minute, I'm jumping ahead. I meant to add also the Southfield, it's not on there, the Southfield Parks and Garden Walk will be in Ravines neighborhood this year on 2 p.m., starting 2 p.m. on June 24th. Then we're adding several new events. On the 21st, Rhythm and Rhymes concert with Oakland County Parks. We're doing a vegetable festival. I'm curious to see what that's going to be. But it's supposed to be about healthy eating. And then we're having the Kimmy Horn Jazz Festival. Those of you that have lived here for years remember when we used to have the jazz concerts on the front lawn. Well, we're bringing that back with Kimmy Horn. And then we have Senior Appreciation Night and the LTU Homecoming. Also, we've moved our Michigan Works, our career center. It was over at John Grace, 8 Mile and Inkster, not the most convenient location. We've moved it to new headquarters on the campus of LTU. This is one of 8 Michigan Works employment centers in Oakland County. We're the only one on a college campus. And they're doing all the stuff that they've always done, career counseling, finding people jobs, resume writing, whatever. I need to give a shout out to COSA, which has been really, really active this year, and the last couple of years, actually. They are working on having Southfield designated as an age-friendly community. This is a standards that ARP, the American Association of Retired People, sets. They've held a series of meetings on these various topics to gain public input, and they'll be making recommendations to council where we need to address issues. We will be working on that. And again, this ties back to aging in place. We are an aging community, but we want people to be comfortable here, comfortable in their homes, staying here. On the other end of the spectrum, My Brother's Keeper, we're continuing to offer support to young men of color. We held a youth symposium, attended last March with 500 young men. We did a Celebrate Summer event and Back to School event. And on March 27th in the pavilion next week, we will be doing the symposium once again. And it includes a whole number of mentoring and workshops. Walkability, we've added miles of sidewalk, repaired a lot of sidewalks. And on Northwestern Highway, there was just what we call a goat path. It was just a track through the grass. There was no sidewalk. So the City Center Advisory Board has financed, and if you don't know what the City Center Advisory Board is, it's all the corporations and the companies and businesses and real estate, the owners of the real estate in the city center area, and it stretches over across Lasher. all put in 5 cents per square foot that they control a year. It comes out to about $500,000. It's not tax dollars. This is donated money from businesses because we use it for civic improvements. The flowers, the banners, the waste receptacles, benches, all of that stuff is paid for by the City Center Advisory Board, not your tax dollars. But it does add a sense of our livability, and of course we're encouraging walkability. So you'll notice how wide this pathway is. It's 10 feet, just like the sidewalks out front when we replace those. We're encouraging people to walk and to bike. The City Council 3 or 4 years ago passed a non-motorized pathway plan. This enables us to get grant money. We just got a $600,000 grant for Safe Walks to School program to add sidewalks in a neighborhood that doesn't have them. We also have our bike share program. The bikes are going back out this week. We had 7 in our initial program. We had 7 locations. You can see them there. And Beaumont Hospital has stepped up and is adding 2 locations. There's a special on right now. I think it's $15, and the whole thing is on your phone. And you don't have to return the bike, although it's appreciated, to where you docked it. They have GPS on them. And so let's say it's, you pick up a bike here and you pedal over to LTU, and then all of a sudden a downpour. You can just leave it there, and Zagster maintains the bikes and will put them back where they need to be. And again, that's sponsored by the City Center Advisory Board. Something we worked on last year, we had a patronicity grant that came from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. How this works, you got 60 days to raise $50,000. If you raise the 50, they give you 50. So we put in for this a $50,000 grant. We raised $55,000 within 60 days. And this is financing our Red Pole Park that'll go on the Northwestern Highway Parkway. What we envision there is a series of visual experiences as you bike or walk along that you go through the Red Pole Park. We are putting out the Northland Pegasus will be another. There's also a wetland. So it just a little something interesting as you walk along. Now with this pathway, you are able to walk from here down Civic Center, up Northwestern, Losher, over 11 Mile, and back down here. And it's we have a lot of people, especially in good weather, doing this. The office workers on their lunch hour. Word is out that Southfield is very serious about increasing the presence of public art. You know, this has been a big initiative of mine as a councilman and as mayor. And we've had 5 pieces donated to the city after we bought the Northland Art Collection. The latest is Pioneer Family 2 by Andreas Drenters, donated to the city by Mark Diem. And this has been installed at the Mary Thompson Farm. The reason we chose that site is that these, Andreas Drenters he was a farm boy. And he created these out of cast-off farm implements and equipment. So this is over at the Thompson Farm. Another piece of the Northland Art Collection is out front on the South Garden in front of City Hall. And this is called Etrog. It's an untitled piece. We will be putting out more of the Northland Art Collection as we continue to raise money to restore and move these pieces. Some of these pieces are extremely heavy, and you don't just get 2 guys in a truck to move them someplace. So we are, to move the Boy and Bear into the library, we spent $17,000 on that. And then some of the pieces need restoration, as this piece did. Anyhow, one of the things I'm really, really excited about is the Boulder Garden at Carpenter Lake. If you have not been out to Carpenter Lake, it's not done. There's an attorney in Bingham Farms, and I happened to meet him almost 2 years ago, and he said, you know, I'm at a stage in life where I just want to give back. I've had a good career in law, and I'd like to do something. And he went to Birmingham, and Birmingham gave him a hard time. I said, well, come to Southfield. Come on over. And so his name is Marshall Lasser. And just this picture doesn't do it justice, but this is this rock. And you can see how large they are. He's not done. So far, this donation has totaled $289,000. And he's going to add more boulders, more plants, and a water feature to Carpenter Lake. It's going to be, it's a phenomenal natural art installation. It's just been amazing to watch it under construction. To give you an idea of how, I mean, he's paying to have these rocks moved here from Upper Peninsula and other places, and all his heavy-duty equipment to place them. The thing Marshall keeps telling me is, Ken, I'm having so much fun. Thank you. And I thank him all the time. So we're going to have interpretive signage there that Cranbrook to explain. It's going to be a teaching experience as well, or an information experience. It's going to have plaques that will explain what the rocks are made of and how they were formed, including the basalt. Speaking of Parks and Rec improvements, we closed Beechwood Center. It was very tired, built in 1974. Not a lot of work had been done to it over the years, other than taking the ice rink out and putting in the basketball court. So it is now undergoing a $2.5 million renovation. We hope to have it done by the end of April. And it'll be a much needed facelift. Over at Inglenook Park, which is our most popular park, we have added a shelter where there was none by the ball fields. And then over at Pebble Creek Park, we had a matching grant from the DNR and put in $500,000 worth of improvements, including this new play lot. Our police department, you know, public safety is a top priority of the council, the mayor, myself, and the administration. And so we've, you know, new police cars, new vests, speed control signs, portable digital radios, anything that they need. We've also made space in the police headquarters for the Oakland County Auto Task Force is now here. And, but we've also purchased a number of high-tech things. The bad guys are using high-tech, and we need to keep up with them. So there's something called a cell phone hawk that traces, that can follow where a cell phone moves, even if it's not turned on. Also, they have to have the police, all they need is the number, the phone number. We have the new Faro system. Anytime there's particularly a serious accident or a fatality, you know, the road gets shut down and the police are out there with measuring tapes, getting the distance, the length of the skid marks and all of that. We now have this piece of equipment, and it's a 360-degree scanner, and it does accurate measurements. So it can reconstruct crime scenes as well as the scene of accidents. It can measure things like gross things like blood spatter and all of that. But, you know, that's all part of crime solving and winning in court. And then we have the FRED digital intelligence system for forensic evidence. Our fire department, I really forgot to mention this because this is a new development, but and this is good for all of us who pay insurance, homeowners insurance. They've just won or just increased the ISO rating. This is what insurers, home insurers look at. Your rating, how well will the local fire department respond if your house or condo is on fire. Our fire department, anyhow, has had 11,600 some runs, EMS calls, 2,100 fire calls, over 14,000 runs in all, and that includes getting cats out of trees. Education and opportunities. Our first robotics competition continues to be held at Southfield High for A&T, sponsored by Denso. They came in the quarterfinals this year. Kamau and Ford Motor are also involved. And this next thing is tremendous. Lawrence Tech formed a partnership this year with Southfield Public Schools. They are giving $3.5 million in scholarships. Now, as a longtime teacher and school administrator, I see kids be awarded scholarships, but somebody needs to mentor them to make sure that they keep their eye on the prize. We have a number of incentive scholarship programs in the school. There's the Wolverines Pathway, there's the Wade McCree Scholar Program. So this is another. But what LTU is doing, they're bringing their staff, starting in middle school, over to work with the kids, mentor them so that they can get into college if they want to. So this is a phenomenal effort on the part of Lawrence Tech, our hometown university. And it's a phenomenal school. In return, we have declining enrollment for years. Southfield Schools has surplus space. They are giving the university use of space, the athletic field, it's former Southfield Lathrop High School, as well as the gym at Brace Letterly School and locker rooms and some other space at Brace Letterly in return for this $3.5 million. Why rebuild when you've got the infrastructure there? The money, in this case, the money's going to be spent, that could have gone for athletic facilities, it's going to be spent on scholarships. We're investing in people, all the better. So this is a tremendous occurrence. Lawrence Tech used to be a commuter school. All the freshmen now have to live on campus. They're opening their fourth dorm, and this was the groundbreaking last April. They're opening their fourth dorm, 300-room dormitory, or bed rather, and sign of the times, it's a dorm with a bicycle garage. And this extremely excited about. I am not a jock, but to have a college football team in Southfield, and football is returning for the first time in 72 years to Lawrence Tech. And think about why this is important for us, even if you're indifferent to football. The economic spinoff of the alumni coming back, hotel rooms, gas stations, restaurants, whatever, dollar stores, anything, it's only going to add to our business climate. So it's a great thing. And they start their season in the fall. It's kind of a warm-up season. A number of non-league games. The first one will be on September 1st at the corner of 10 Mile and Northwestern Highway. And then in 2019, they'll be in Mid-States League. So the AstroTurf is all in. That was $1 million anonymous donation. And they will be erecting these support facilities and a scoreboard. They're in a capital campaign now for this. Great things are happening in the SFLD. I know I've talked for a long time, but there's many, many more things that are happening. I'm just, as I said last year, it's a great time to be mayor. I'm so optimistic, and we're headed in the right direction. It's really very exciting, but I don't do this alone, so I must give credit. We have a great council. Any of you that have been here a long time know that the council used to be kind of divided in contentious things. This group of people, they're selfless. It's about our city. We don't agree on everything, but we have respectful conversations and disagreements. There is no dysfunction between the council, the mayor, and the administration. It is, for me, having been on council for 14 years and now mayor, it's so refreshing to have this kind of atmosphere. We have Fred Zorn and John McGreena work very hard every day, and Obviously, the council has set goals for the next 2 years. Our goals become the marching order for our department heads and their staff. So we give a lot of credit to all of these folks as we work to reinvest and renew. So I thank you all for coming out tonight to hearing this. Carry the good word forth where things are good in Southfield. Thank you. And I have one commercial. There's also refreshments. Please stick around for something. My assistants bake cookies and all of that, so they want somebody to eat them. But also, I do a mayor's memo, and it's monthly most of the time. It's informative. It tells you things that are going on. If you want to be on that email list, I do not give it to anybody else. It's reminders about things that are happening, and it's the mayor's memo. There's a sign-up sheet. Vicki and Beverly are out in the hall. You can sign up for the mayor's memo if you're not on the list, and you'll get monthly or more frequent updates from my office. So thank you again.